Also record. Yo, what's up, everyone? Join us on episode 165 of the Davidson Hang podcast, where we interview prominent thought leaders and talk about coaching related topics on how to get better self improvement and becoming better communicators. And so Aditya is a dear friend of mine. He's one of my closest friends. We've gotten to know each other intimately. I would say probably too intimately. Uh, take that, take that as you will. But he's one of my dear friends, and he's a trainer, a coach. He's a really good human being. He's coached over 100 plus tech leaders and trained over 1,000 tech professionals, and he empowers tech leaders to master their influence. And yeah, I just think his attitude, your positivity, and your coaching brilliance speaks for itself. And just the impact that you make in the world, I don't think you truly know like how impactful you really are, brother. So I'm excited to be sitting here with you and just having an awesome conversation about the future of work and coaching and other communication and influence related topics with you.
Thank you, Davidson, for such a warm intro. I was not expecting that. So I'm
Oh,
excited
sorry.
for the
And
topic.
you're also the founder of Who We Are as well. I can't believe I totally forgot about that, but we'll
I was
dig deep.
very disappointed. I'm like, how can he forget about that thing? Like, he covered everything else but that one thing. I'm like, what's going on, Davidson?
Disappointment is my middle name, so it's all right.
Great.
So I know, we had a pretty awesome chat this week just about ChatGPT and the implications it has for software engineers. Obviously, you have a pretty strong background in the tech world and software engineering, and I talked a little bit about from the sales perspective and how it's going to revolutionize like a lot of the ways that can make us more productive. So I think that could be an interesting thing to talk about as well during this call.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, right now the world is on fire with ChatGPT. Like everyone is going crazy about ChatGPT. It's one of those things, right? But which happens once in a few decades. Like iPhone happened before that, cars happened before that, airplanes happened, things like
Yeah.
that, right? So it's one of those things that happens once in every few decades, and every company is racing to create more AI related products, chat GPT related products. And there are so many cool software out there. And all of this has really, as exciting as it has also made very near future uncertain. What are the
Mm.
jobs that are going to remain? What are the jobs that are going to be replaced, and so on? So yes, Davidson and I were talking about what can happen in sales, what can happen in tech industry, and that's exactly what we want to chat about in this session. So with that said, where do you want to get started, Davidson? You want to start with sales? You want to start with the tech
Well,
industry?
well, let's talk about like what it is first, because I think some people like kind of have an idea, and some people don't. I would say in your field, for sure, in tech, people you probably have a more intimate relationship with it. But let's just talk about like
Very
what it is fundamentally first, and then we could talk about what does it mean for us in the future, like just as human beings, like how should we interact? What can our relationship be with it?
Yeah, great question, right? And instead of just diving right into the topic, let's just talk about what it is.
Yeah.
So, first of all, right, ChatGPT is an AI tool which acts like a human, which gives human-like responses. For example, especially it's already changing the content industry. You give it some prompts. If you have ideas, for example, you want to create social media posts either for your own company or for yourself, and you want some ideas on what to create content on, you can just ask ChatGPT, give me some content ideas. It will give you some content ideas, and then you can expand on those content ideas. You can maybe you have a few ideas already. You can ask ChatGPT ChatGPT to rewrite those ideas in a way that is more engaging. It can give you SEO content. It can so previously you would have to hire SEO, engineer or whatever, whoever you call it, in order to make it index your article. But ChatGPT now does it, right? And the most breakthrough thing out of this whole thing is that it does it so well. Does it so well that it's hard to distinguish between whether it is done by ChatGPT or a real human. And
Mm,
that's the most fascinating thing about the whole thing.
mm.
So let me pause right there and see if Davidson, if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I know it from the context of sales. So more specifically, like writing copy. So, a big part of a salesperson's job is like sending emails and writing persuasive emails to our CEOs, for instance, right? So it's so productive that what would normally take me 3 hours to write like a super thoughtful email to a Fortune 1,100 CEOs, I can literally just copy and paste and say, "Hey, can you help me write an email to CEOs that will help me sell leadership development programs and highlight the importance of leadership development for organizations, right?" And then it'll write something, and then I could, to your point, I can teach it. Can you make it more concise, or can you make it more persuasive? And then it can, and that would have taken me hours to do on my own, and I would have to ask my teammates, like, "Hey, what do you think?" But I can just train it, and it could get better, and it's just crazy the implications and what's possible through that.
Absolutely. And again, like you mentioned, right? You can give it a tone, make it more laid back, and you can
Mm,
ask it to make it funny. And it's impressive how creative it gets in terms of making it.
yeah.
You can ask it to write some hooks for your post that gets people to read.
Mm,
Previously, you would have to spend a lot of money hiring copywriters to do that. Now
mm.
it can do it for you. So
I do want to preface by saying, like, it's certainly beginning stages, right? Like, it's certainly, I would say at where it's at currently, I wouldn't have to worry too much about losing my job. But this is the first iteration, right? Imagine iteration 50.0 or 100.0, right? So it is scary to think. I don't know if scary is the right word, but the uncertainty of, wow, can this, when I was working at Fortune magazine, the editors, we would joke and we would be like, all right, let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. And at Fortune, there's a lot of editors, right, where they're literally, the whole job is to write persuasive content so that subscribers that are paying us money can, and we just tried it. And I would say it's not perfect like anything else. Like, it's not perfect, but it's just scary to think, like, if this is the first iteration, imagine what it's going to be like in 5, 10, 50 years from now. It's just hard to believe.
absolutely. Um, so tell me a little more about your uh, experience working with copywriters. Like on an average, right? If you're looking at a company like Fortune, how many copywriters do they have, and uh,
Yeah.
what do you believe is the current impact on them? What do you see?
I think they're not necessarily worried at this moment, but they are worried in the sense that, like, because the way I look at it is, like, there's like good writing and there's like expert level writing, right? Like, the expert ones are the ones that are, are the people that um, are Fortune, that's interacting with Jamie Dimon or Mark Benioff or the CEO of Pfizer and Oracle, right? That's at a level, I would say, that's currently much higher than what AI could do right now. I would say for entry level positions, right? Like the people that, traditionally, when you're right out of college, let's say you graduated from Columbia Journalism School, and your job is to literally proofread everything, and your job is to, like, make sure there's no typos, or you do the research for a current client, right? Like, let's say your job is like, okay, well, we're doing a documentary on Jamie Dimon and how he was able to become the CEO of. So normally that would take that that copywriter maybe 12, 14, or junior person 14 hours to like really do. We can literally go to ChatGPT, and if they know how to do this, they can actually save a lot of time, right? So I would say it's not that they don't have a job, but what have normally would have taken them 14 hours, they can probably do in an hour if they really learn what prompts and know how to leverage the tool.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point you just mentioned, Davidson, which is that maybe the super senior guys in the copywriting industry, they're not affected because they use more than their skill set is more than AI, but it's the bottom line ones, right? Who are just entering the job market, junior ones, their job is affected. And as far as my personal experience, right? So I have content creators for my own company. I leverage them after working with them. Previously I would spend a couple $100 every month, getting
Hmm.
help. Uh,
Oh.
the with them, when I had to work with them, I give them some content and they proofread it, revise it, send it back, and it would
Hmm.
go back and forth and take several days
Hmm.
in order to finalize something. Uh, but with ChatGPT, I don't have to send it, wait for their input,
Hmm.
and then re-edit it and so on. So I can do it with ChatGPT instantaneously. So my efforts are much smaller if I just do it myself. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, I have to. I stopped working with the copywriters and I started leveraging ChatGPT for that. So that's one area where you can see the
Hmm.
direct impact, right,
Hmm.
on ChatGPT. So unfortunately, that there is an impact in that area directly. Second direct impact is Grammarly. I was
Hmm.
paying $100, a little over $100 in subscription fees for
Oh yeah.
Grammarly.
Yeah.
Right after ChatGPT came out, I canceled it. And
Huh.
literally, I mean, Grammarly became no business all of a
Huh.
day. It's millions of dollars
Hmm.
in business. All of a sudden, the in few weeks, it
Huh.
went from millions of dollars to zero. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the level of impact this ChatGPT is having on companies and
Hmm.
unfortunately the lives of many people.
Yeah, that's a fair point, right? Even thinking to, because I guess I look everything through the lens of sales, right? Because revenue and sales and business is where obviously where I spend most of my time. And it was crazy to think, they were talking about integration with ChatGPT, one of the sales tools I use, and the fact that it's able to not only like summarize the meeting, but be able to write a follow up email highlighting
Mhm.
these are some of the points. This like I like so I would say at the end of my meeting, all right, I'll send you over the white paper. I'm going to these are the questions that you asked. This is my homework. This is like what you need to do on your end, and just from using that AI tool, it's able to write that concisely and then send out a link and send out the like calendar invite links. That would have taken me an hour to re-listen to the call, see what I've missed, look through my notes, ask my colleague, like, hey, is there anything else I missed? They were able to do that in real time. And you're just like, what? Like, it's just crazy how advanced this thing is.
Absolutely. So let's also talk about the application of ChatGPT in tech. Before we move into that application of ChatGPT in tech, anything else that you would like to share about ChatGPT in sales?
No, I just think I love what you said about how I mean, I have a friend who works at Grammarly, and yes, it's dramatically impacting their business for sure. So that's a great example. And I love what you said about the copywriting, right? You were able to not only save money, save time, but you were able to essentially like eliminate steps of the process that many business owners have to deal with. So that's a brilliant use case on how to leverage the tool. So yeah, good
Yeah,
insights.
thank you. So switching to the impact of ChatGPT in tech, right? Um, so again, I do some consulting projects as well, and there's quite a bit of coding, and me and my team does. The typically you spend, of course, in tech, you spend most of the time in writing code. ChatGPT does such a brilliant job in taking the requirements and writing the code for you. Doesn't matter what the language is, whether it's Python, C Sharp, Java, JavaScript,
Hmm.
React, JS. Give it any language, it just writes the code.
Wow.
And it just saves a ton of time. It's just fun
Hmm.
working with ChatGPT, and people stopped using Stack Overflow, right? Because
Wow.
previously that's the website you would go to, versus
Huh.
now you can go to ChatGPT, ask for the code, it
Huh.
writes you the custom code, and it's not even a copy paste code from someone else. It literally listens to your requirements. You can tell it,
Huh.
this is exactly what I need. Take this
Wow.
function, take this function, and it just writes you custom code as if you paid hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Huh.
And again, it saves a lot of time, in even in troubleshooting. Like, hey, you can ask ChatGPT, where do I look for it? I'm getting this error, where do I look for it? It will
Huh.
literally guide you. And many
Wow.
times, in some of the projects, when the senior leaders were looking for something, I was able to provide the responses in a few minutes that they were impressed. Wow, impressive. Yeah, how did you do that? I'm like, thank you, ChatGPT. I had no idea about the product, right? It's a certain software, but it's easy to
Huh.
get in because you just ask ChatGPT. So that's again a revolutionary change that
Hmm.
ChatGPT is created in tech. One caveat though is that it still has a lot of bugs.
Yeah.
It's very confident in what it says.
Yep.
It's like it has the. I mean, I wish I had the confidence in ChatGPT, even if sometimes it produces crap results, but
Yeah.
the way it communicates is, I'm like the god. So you're like, you wouldn't,
That's funny.
sometimes you wouldn't trust your code because it's
Mhm.
so confident in what it talks about,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't even bother testing it. So don't fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just gives out crap. So make sure when you use it, test it out.
Yeah.
Test out your code before using that. So that's one thing I would say. And like you said, Davidson, it's still in the initial phase, and we got to wait for it to be perfect. At some point it's going to be.
That's a fair point, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like in the beginning, like the first iteration of what you ask, it's usually pretty generic, right? But to your point, if you keep teaching it, like I could say, hey, make this more persuasive. Hey, make this specific to only what CEOs care about. Hey, can you write it in a like less salesy tone, whatever it is, right? As you continue to like teach
Give
it,
it
it becomes
prompts.
better and better.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So so we have seen the different use cases of ChatGPT in sales and tech. So let's talk a little bit about what are the skill set. I mean, literally, if someone is graduating out of the school or college, previously I
Mhm.
don't know what kind of skills they would look for in sales, but in tech it's mainly algorithms and data structures. These are the skills that you're tested for, right? Or
Mhm.
your ability to solve problems.
Yeah.
Right now, ChatGPT does way better job than any human being can do in terms of like solving a
Mm.
logical problems. Um, so
Hmm.
with that said, let's dive a little deep in a little into like what are the skill set that are not replaceable. As
Mm.
much as ChatGPT poses a threat to many of the existing jobs, it also is an opportunity to develop some other skill set that cannot be replaced by AI.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that, Davidson?
I love that question, right? As technology becomes more integrated in our lives and look, technology is never going to go away, right? It's going to become more synchronous with our lives as we continue to rely on it. I mean, you can argue we're already androids, right? Like how many of us can live a day without our cell phone, right? It's become an extension of us. Um, I would say, working at Udemy, I had a pretty intimate look on from a trends and search functionality on what people care about, what people searching for and learning their skills. And yes, AI was one of the most popular ones, right? But even within tech managers, right? If you want to become a director of IT, if you want to become a VP, right? I think you and I have spoken about how valuable it was to be able to manage people and have the emotional intelligence of not only being able to communicate the business, not understanding the business leads, but then translating it and communicating like, hey, this is what they're looking for. So that communication is still going to always be one of the most important skills, even if you're in tech.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. There are certain people skills that can never be replaced with AI. And you were talking about it even yesterday, Davidson, that, especially the field you are in, which is sales and marketing, right? Yes, there is a content writing aspect of it, but the really the best people in sales are great with people. They have the emotional intelligence, they have the charisma to be able to, like Davidson does, right? To be able to network and influence them and create those communities and be able to address people's needs, be able to develop products that meets the people needs,
Mm,
intuition. There are a lot of a plethora of people skills that ChatGPT can never replace or even get close to, right? So I think focusing on those skills, whether it is in sales or whether it is in tech, even in tech, yes, the low level jobs, the coding jobs will be replaced undoubtedly by ChatGPT. Um, but there is still someone that needs to give it the instructions. Of course, it's not there right now, but like 3 to 5 years from now, or even 10 years, right? You're going to have these. You're just going to have to give it the prompts and it will develop the software for you. But you still need someone to be able to give the right prompts. And that's what people are calling it as prompt engineering. There are
mm,
already jobs being created in this area
mm,
called prompt engineering. So you might say, prompt engineering means just asking questions. So what's the big deal? I can
mm,
ask questions. However, it's much more complex task
mm,
because being able to give the right prompts means you have to understand what you need to ask for. In order to
mm,
understand what you need to ask for, that's where the people skills come in. Because if
mm,
you can't understand the business at a much deeper level and understand the context, it's never easy and straightforward to ask those right questions to ChatGPT.
mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's brilliant, right? One of the reasons why software engineers and salespeople make probably the most money, right, out of any industry, right? A good salesperson can make anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million a year, right? Like top salespeople. And you might argue, like, why are they getting paid that much? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But it's truly like understanding at the business level, like what the CEO cares about, what the board of directors care about, right? Normal salespeople that only make like 100 to 150,000 a year, right? They're only able to just look at the surface, like, oh, I'm trying to sell them a solution, like, yeah, we need to sell them this because XYZ. But the best salespeople can impact at the level of where no, like what does the CEO care about? Like even though I don't have access to the CEO, like how can I be able to build a use case that ultimately impacts all of the organization, right? So, what's keeping the CEO up at night? And that takes a lot. There's little nuances. I'm sure similar to in tech, I'm sure I've heard of some coders that are just, there's a reason why they make over 500,000 a year, some like the top coders, right? Because they're 100 times better than your average coder, right? So similar in sales, there's a reason why there's some people making over 1 million a year is because they're 10 times better than your average salesperson, right? So I love what you're bringing up.
Yeah, and great points on being able to understand your leaders well, right? It's easy to say, hey, understand what he cares about, understand. You might think asking him questions, right? I can ask Davidson, what do you care about? What keeps you up? I guess you can ask him questions, but I think, Davidson and I being in the coaching industry, we coach other, leaders. It's about reading the room, reading between the lines, you
Mm,
tapping into your intuition, right?
mm,
Sometimes people might not say those things, and it
yeah.
also takes you to be vulnerable in order to be able to ask certain questions. And that
Mm,
takes a lot of inner work to be
mm,
able to get those answers out from other people, to
hmm,
make that connection. So uh, there's a lot that goes into the concept of people skills and being able to understand others. And even in tech, it's the same thing, right?
mm,
Davidson was talking about, understanding CEOs and maybe even understanding your customers at a deeper level. In tech, it's about understanding the business requirements. Many times, many companies lose hundreds and thousands of dollars because
mm,
the companies and businesses want to build a bike and the engineers
mm,
build a rocket, and no one wants to use it, right? And they
mm,
lose money because of that. And that's where these skill sets around being able to understand and listen at a deep
mm,
level become highly critical. So those who mastered this game are going to win the future. Until
mm,
now, there has been so much focus on the low level things because people dedicated a lot of time on
mm,
algorithms and data structures, because of course you need to get those right in order to get these things. So there has been little attention to the people aspect of things in
mm,
terms of listening well and communication, even though there are courses you can take, but it's not the most popular subject right now that you
mm.
can take. All right. And I think focus is going to shift to those areas as chat gpt takes over the logical side of things.
Huh. This is might be a controversial topic to bring up, but as we're obviously entering a recession, or the economy has been up and down in the last few years since the pandemic. I keep hearing a lot of jobs are being outsourced to overseas, right? Whether it's like India or China or Philippines or whatever. And I think with like anytime you're speaking to another country, there's sometimes communication barriers between both parties, right? And I hear from folks that work at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and all these big companies that they're having to collaborate more with. So I think the skill in being able to communicate and understanding across different cultures, different regions, is a huge valuable skill that in the future, and even now, right, is just going to becoming it would just become more and more valuable as we become a more globalized, globalized workforce. Every month it's becoming even more and more so.
Absolutely. And so as we are wrapping this call, Davidson, if someone is graduating um, college, what do you recommend them to do?
I think you should hire Aditya. He'll help you double your salary within a couple of years. He'll help you get $100,000 raise over the course of next couple of years. Um, but yes,
Now, now I'm going to give Davidson a prompt saying that make it less salesy.
see, if it was ChatGPT, it wouldn't have been so bold, right? No, but it's
Exactly.
in more seriousness. I think emotional intelligence is so important, right? As automation becomes and AI helps all the lower entry, all the tasks, actions, as things become more automated, the ability to like understand people, to be able to read people and be able to connect with any other like other human beings is going to become even more valuable as a lot of the monotonous tasks become less needed in our society, where as we tend to leverage technology more often.
Love it. I'm going to parrot what you just said, uh, but probably 5 years, 10 years from now, I think right now science and tech is probably one of the popular majors that people want to take for the
Mm,
bigger salaries. I think that
mm,
will be replaced by emotional intelligence, right?
mm,
The courses in school, people go to schools mainly to develop emotional intelligence. I think the curriculum is going to rapidly change,
mm,
and that's an exciting future. I think it makes for a better world than we are living in right now. I think the world will be a much better place with
mm.
with emotionally intelligent people like Davidson.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, so many takeaways. I really enjoyed just thinking about the future, and I think people inherently are afraid of things they don't understand, right? So some both Aditya and I recommend for you to just go on the website, check it out, right? Just Google ChatGPT, go on the website and just play around, right? Like I think we tend to be afraid of things we don't understand. And I'm not saying that you should be a master or you should be a prompt engineer, right? Although that would be a very lucrative career, clearly. But I think it helps to just be able to get outside our comfort zone and just be able to at least understand it a little bit more, right? I think we tend to run away from things that scare us. And I think my lesson is it could be your friend or it could be your enemy, right? It's your choice. Like, what do you want to choose in this new world that we're living in?
Yeah. For though, just to follow up on that, if you find ChatGPT scary, this more simple thing you can do is go to Edge browser. Every laptop has it installed by default on your computer, especially if it is Windows laptop. Go to Edge browser. There's a new button that you will see called Chat. So you do Google search, right? That is inevitable. So instead of doing the Google search, go to the chat and type in your question and look at how well it answers your
Mm.
question. So that's an easy way for you to try the power and taste the power of a tool like ChatGPT. Pleasure doing this having this conversation with you, Davidson. Um, Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure as we're both having to leverage these tools in our careers and in our lives, I'm sure we'll have many more conversations about this. Once again, thank you, brother. You've helped not only me, but so many others with just be able to have confidence, like help us have confidence in ourselves. You always bring a smile and a laugh to everyone that you encounter. And I'm just grateful to be your friend, brother.
Likewise, brother.